Hola! I don't know. Just don't ask. All right. Today we're going to run through the entire process of me curing a large muscle. And this one's from Amos. And this is part of the hind leg. Amos was butchered a week ago Monday, the day after Christmas. And his meat was allowed to air dry out in the shop around 35 degrees for 3 or 4 days. And slowly I've been cutting up pieces of him and bringing him in and curing him. But this particular piece I cut out of the hind leg about 4 or 5 days ago, and I vac sealed it up and just stuck it in my fridge. And I wasn't sure if I was going to freeze it and come back to it later. But I really like curing when it's fresh with a pig that I fully know its heritage and its history. And Amos was raised right here in beautiful Parter Farms and spent half his time out in those woods and half his time in the pasture, a little bit in the barn. And although we do have a black bear occasionally in this area, I know that he's not come in contact with black bear or the feces or anything like that. So I don't have to. Normally, if it's a pig that's unknown, I would freeze it for a period of days. Try to get sub-zero temperatures on it and let it sit for 30 days or longer in the freezer. It would kill off any. I don't even know what I'm talking about, but I know it would kill off some stuff. Certainly trichinosis or anything like that. I've like I said, I've done a number of the items already cured, but today I just want to kind of take you through a step-by-step of how I do it. Now, this is not a recipe that I'm telling you that you should do. I'm telling you this is the recipe that I do and the way that I do it. And you do you and I do me, and don't take any of this information as the Bible. I've been doing it successfully for a number of years now, not nearly as long as a lot of you. And I have, my techniques are my techniques. A lot of them I've learned from, YouTube. A lot of them I learned from people in person. I've been to classes. And the most that I've ever learned is from trial and error, just practicing and trying and practicing and trying and tasting and having your friends taste it and your family and them saying, it sucks, or yeah, it's pretty good. So, but I had a number of people say, hey, you put together something and you teach us how to, well, you can do and I'll do it, and I'll do it, and I'll do it, and I'll do it. I got a lot of energy right now. I don't know why I should. Lord. Anyway, the first thing I will start with is the spices that I use. I try to source everything I can from Italy or the region of whatever I'm making. If I'm trying to duplicate a Spanish jamon, I will source those ingredients from Spain. If I'm trying to do a Parma ham, a prosciutto, I will source those ingredients from Italy. This is America, and this is Parter Farms on the western shores of Chippewa Lake. I just love saying that. We're literally on the shore of Chippewa Lake in, we'll call it Northeast Ohio, a section of Medina County. And we've been here for almost 2 years now, and it's been an interesting challenge. We have a long way to go, but and I'll lose my train of thought several times as I go through this, and I can't make up any excuse other than I'm old, and I'm really old actually. But anyway, here in America, we want to produce our own ham. We don't want to produce a prosciutto, a Parma ham, and try to duplicate that. We don't want to produce a Spanish jamon or an Iberico jamon and try to reproduce that. And I know a bunch of people across the U.S. have tried and been very successful at producing things. But I wanted to produce an Ohio-raised pig, and for the most part, most of the pigs we've sourced over the years have come from Ohio, usually down in southern Ohio. Most of them have lived in the woods, where they get a diet of acorns and leaves. And my pigs, they eat literally anything out there: bark, leaves, dirt, acorns. We give our pigs a very daily ration of acorns. I'm one of those believers that Acorns do things to the fat. They impart some type of property, chemicals, something that helps the fat not get rancid over time. The oldest prosciutto in the world, I think, is like 126 years old. And we say prosciutto, it's actually a ham, and I believe it's at Benton Ham here in the United States. And it's still a viable, edible ham. But one of the problems you come across when you age something really long period of time is the fat tends to go rancid, especially if it's not stored properly. Right now I have a glass case, storing some of my hams, which is stupid, because I don't want light getting in there and the UV rays breaking down the fat. Normally that's turned and facing the wall so that it doesn't get any light inside of it. But I want to produce an Ohio ham, prosciutto, jamon that has very unique flavors, and we've done that. And many people in the Midwest and around the country have produced their own quality dry cured ham, and we haven't come up with a name for ours in the United States other than it's pretty dang good, I tell you that much. And we compared it several weeks back. We did a tasting out at Orlando Foods where I brought all my prosciuttos that I've made, as well as a Spanish jamon and a Iberico, Spanish Iberico. And we compared them to my 4-year-old large black that has been in storage now for quite a while. But oh my goodness, the overwhelming majority is outstanding. Now, can you say it's better than Iberico? That'd be ridiculous. There's not much things in your life you'll ever put in your mouth better than a well-aged and properly cured Iberico ham. That's just my opinion, and I have one in there that I keep for very special times. And as far as Serrano hams go, they're fabulous also. I've got a bunch of them, and people say, well, why do you buy them because today you can buy them fairly cheaply, and I like having them on hand, and I even like playing with them. I'll take a Serrano ham out and I'll throw it into the Iberico bag that it came in. The Iberico bag's got the mold and the yeast and it's stuck to the bag, and I seal it up tight, and I try to get some of that flavoring into the Spanish jamon. And it's fun to just kind of play around with things in that regard. But we're trying to produce something here that is unlike anything that you can buy in the store, or unlike anything that you've tasted before. And whether you're successful at doing it, who knows? You ask one person, they're like, oh my God, you did it, you nailed it, it's just fabulous, I love it better than all those. Other people say, like myself, I don't think it's as good as the premium Iberico, and even some of the Serrano jamons. But nonetheless, I love it. It's tasty. I made it, and everyone that's eaten it, no one's gotten sick yet from it. Food safety is a very important subject. I'm a member of the American Culinary Federation, and going on 3 or 4 years now with them. I've done a bunch of events with them, and I am constantly learning new things about food safety. They offer courses. I need to take one. I know it. I haven't done it yet. And you're going to see some things in here today that, well, let's just call them questionable when it comes to food safety. My goal is that no one gets the diarrhea from eating any of my food, or worse, the death. Don't want the botulism. That should be the worst case scenario. But you're going to see some things in here. And again, this is not a recipe I'm pushing down your throat. This is just how I do it. And we're not a USDA shop. We're not a health inspected facility yet, but we are. We try to take every measure to be as clean as possible. And the one good thing that the COVID brought along now is, and you guys in the food world have been doing it long before us home-based people, but now we use the rubber gloves, and not just for the prostate exam, but for the food preparation. So, and if you're not getting the prostate exam when you're supposed to on a regular basis, from the missus or the girlfriends or whatever your proclivity is, you need to get to the doctor and have the old, checkup. Just my little bit of health advice right there, coming from a I think I'm healthy, but I don't feel like I'm always healthy. My body aches and pains when I get out of bed in the morning. I ain't gotta put these stupid things on, but I'll tell you what. All right, they're gonna get started. So first thing I'm gonna talk about is the spices that I use. I already said that, but I come up with what I call a peppery blend. Now I'm gonna show you every single thing that I do in here, and there's no secrets amongst friends when it comes to food preparation and making, except the peppery blend. Peppery blend is just that. It's a blend of things I put together, and it gives a great deal of what I make. It's very minimally spiced and will include peppery blend. And the reason being is we source pigs that normally would not be available to the general public. They're extremely expensive, they're rare, they're heritage breeds, they're breeds specifically grown and suit well to making charcuterie. Some people call them lard pigs, but we even go beyond that. We want a specific gender, we want a specific age, we want them to have certain. That being said, Amos is a heritage. Amos is who we're curing today. He's a heritage breed, Berkshire, and he's probably the closest pure Berk that we have right now. He's an unregistered one. He was 16 months old. He weighed out at 676 pounds when I took him down. Another lesson I would not. However, for charcuterie pigs, yeah, it's about the size or bigger you're going to want to pull, because they'll have fat caps on them that are, 5-6 inches. And the flavors in the fat, and where the flavor comes from is what we call hormones, and those are stored in the fat. And if you want to taste, that's why I minimally spice, and I'll explain. If you want to really taste what that meat is, and you can actually taste what that pig ate during his lifetime if you minimally spice that. And if he's fed the right things during his lifetime, it will come through in his muscle, it will come through in his fat, and you'll have these flavors that you'll be like, wow, where's that nuttiness coming from? Where's that that almost like a nutmeg flavor inside there coming from? And in my particular case, and in many others, it's coming from the diet that the pigs eat. But we're gonna get a little bit on the crazy side on this one, because I'm gonna add some other spices in it too, in addition to peppery blend. Don't ask, I ain't telling you it's peppery blend. We're gonna add fennel pollen. This stuff is more expensive by weight than gold. This stuff, holy shamoly. But again, it's a beauty. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. And the calabrine, sweet pepper. This one we're going to take a little bit. We're going to take a little bit out there. We got the cure number 2. All right. I'm going to talk just briefly about cure number 1, cure number 2. Cure number 1 is used for short-term curing, 30 days and under, and if you're going to cook the item like sausage. Cure number 2 is for longer than 30 days curing, and you can't be cooking anything you put cure number 2 in. Now, caveats to every rule, because I'll take a pancetta that I cured with cure number 2 8 years ago, slice up a little bit of it in a pan, put it in a pan, and do a little carbonara, and yeah, so far I'm okay. But a whole nother subject on the cures 1 and 2, the difference between them. I'm not going to go into them today, but 90% of what I do is cure number 2, because my stuff takes anywhere from 1 year to 8 years, literally, and it just keeps getting better and better and better. You want your cure to last long enough within that product until all the water activity is at a level that is below where bacteria would like to grow at. And generally that's past the 50% water loss mark, weight loss mark. I don't generally weigh mine when I'm done and then go by weight loss in their chambers when I determine how much drying and aging they're doing. I generally go by feel, smell. I know how long they've been in there. I control the humidity in this room more than I control the humidity in the chambers. And again, I'll explain some of that as we go through it. We're not going to be able to hit on every single point, like the difference between this and cure number one on everything, but we're going to try to do as much as we can within the little bit of amount of time that we have. Listen, to really understand curing is a 7-day project, is a 7-day course where you're at it 8 to 10 hours a day, but you'll never retain all that information. So it's a waste of time to do all of that. You do 2 or 3 hours, 4 hours studying, and then you study some other things, and then you go another week. You'll pick it up in time, but the point of the rabbit hole of curing meat and doing it safely is really, really deep, and I don't recommend it for 95% of people out there that don't have the proper resources to build you can do it right in your home refrigerator, and you can, and I did it successfully. But if you really want to get into it, spend the money to buy the proper resources, and it's not necessarily cheap, but it's rewarding. It's fun. It's right here. It's my favorite place to be. I love my farm, but this is the favorite place to be because you're out here with your meat, playing with your meat. Who don't like doing that? I use this salt almost exclusively. Now, there's a salt company in South Carolina, Bowles Bay. Teresa, my good friend, owns that. And she makes amazing salts. She mines it herself. When I say mines it, she brings in salt water and she evaporates it in all these different buildings that she has. And it's an amazing process. And she makes an amazing product. I've cured with her product one time. And there's a bunch of artisan salts out there and amazing products out there that will complement any food that you're putting it on. For my curing, I need something that is 100% consistent, exactly the same every time, so that I can duplicate my results. I've studied a great deal of the salt companies out there, and they're all wonderful, not putting any of them down, but for me, the Diamond Crystal kosher salt, and I think I read this somewhere, over a several year study, was the most consistent produced product on the market in regards to salinity, grain size, and all of that. The only thing I'll say about salt is don't use anything with iodine or minerals in it that are not just pure salt. They're beautiful for curing, don't get me wrong, but you can never duplicate something like that unless you have that exact same salt. And when you go to a small manufacturer to get a curing salt like that, it's very difficult to get the exact same mineral content, blah, 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 blah. And if you really want to study salt, Peru, the most amazing country in the world for salt. All right. What else? I talked about the Italian, yeah. All right, so I'm going to go grab that piece of meat. Again, you're going to see me do things like touch my face. It's my shop, so we're going to grab the piece of meat. I'm going to take you with me for that. No, I won't. You stay here. Yeah, I'll take you with me in a little bit, but right now I'm just going to go grab it, come back here. You know, say to yourself, say, oh, yeah. If there are some of you out there that think that I don't have mental issues, you'd be wrong. All right, so here it is. It's vac sealed. And this is an interesting piece right here, all right? This is part of the hind leg. If you take the hind leg, the ham, all right, it's actually 3 different muscles, and there's probably more in here, I don't know, but there's 3 different muscles that I can separate, seam out, and this is one of them. This is one of them with actually part of another muscle on it. You can see it's flat, all right? And what's interesting about it is there's a big section of meat over here, there's some section of meat in the center, but there's a lot of fat in this momo, all right? So let's first look at weighing it, all right? Most scales in your household don't go up. This just gets to me. I know what it weighs, but it's over 10 pounds, it's under 20 pounds. That's what I can tell you. So how do you weigh it? Well, Claudia, close your eyes right now. Use a bathroom scale. Oh, sure, you wiped it off and I sanitized. Absolutely, I did. All right, so you gotta push it down like that to get her to reset itself, and you're gonna come over here, and it says, after I place it on there without touching anything, 14.8 pounds for that big bad boy. I don't trust it, because, you know, normally it's a big fat fella like me getting on there, and it's normally weighing somewhere, you know, in the low 200-pound ranges. So I'm not going to trust that this is entirely accurate. I'm sure it's been sanitized, but I do have, don't ask me why, I do have a baby scale. All right, so let's see what the baby scale says. I got her set down at 0. I'm going to take this bad boy and set her up there. Looks like a little baby, doesn't it? And, well, this guy here says, what did that last one say? 14.8, right? The last one. This one here says 15.8. So you're going to get somewhere. Now, I will buy myself a quality meat department scale at some point, but you know, you got to pick and choose what you where you spend your money. And there's a lot of things that I don't have that I wish I did have, but I'm not ready yet. I'm just not ready yet. The vac sealer is the one, you know, I got a bunch of little vac sealers and one, you know, pretty nice vac, but I want a vac master. I want one of them big chamber doodaddys. But again, not in the budget right now, and that's just fine. So, place that there. One of the most important things you're going to have when you start doing this, and I don't mind leaving this out now while we sit and talk through this whole process, because we're going to, even if that temperature drops or raises to room temperature, we're going to be curing it, and I'm okay for that brief amount of time. Now, it's not going to change much temperature because that's a big piece of meat. But what's interesting about it is it's not a big piece of meat. It's half meat, half fat. 50% meat, 50% fat. And that's the truth of it. I know because that's when I cut it out. This here's your Bible. This here's my Bible. Anyway, it's where I write down every single thing I do. Write down the total weight, what ingredients I'm putting in it, blah, 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 blah. But here's what I'll tell you. I named this one, I gave this one a number. I named this one Prosciuttini Amos. Amos, but Amos sounds better. With today's date, it's 50% fat cap, it's 50% meat. Total weight of this item, we're going to say is 15.5 pounds, right? Which is roughly 7,000 grams. Adjusted weight for curing. Now, let's talk about this. Adjusted weight for curing is going to be half that, 3,500 grams. And I know there's naysayers out there that say, hey, you got to use the entire weight of that piece of meat to calculate your salt and your curing agents. Otherwise, it's not true. It's not true at all. Here's why. I've done a lot of prosciuttos, hams, whole ones. I got them all hanging right inside there. And we have used every method from EQ curing, which means you measure it out, you take a percentage, you put in the exact salt percentage that you know, you vac seal it up, and it can never get any saltier than that. The worst thing you want is to have a product that's too salty and people don't want to eat it. So you want to have a nice blend. You want it to taste great when it's done. On my lip. So I've done the salt box method where you leave it in for a certain number of days, but we're always basing that on the total weight of the ham. And I think there's an error in that. And here's why. If you watch hams being done in Spain and Parma, mass-produced hams, they bring the big round, right, ham out, and they cover it with salt. Whoa, 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 whoa. And they don't, you know, it's got the skin on it on the back, so there's no salt that's going to be penetrating through that skin. The salt's going to kill any bacteria and prevent any bacteria from growing on the back side of that skin, but there's no salt's going to penetrate that skin. You're not going to get much salt to penetrate into the fat either because there's very little water content in the fat. I have lardo, literally, I have lardo in the fridge that's 8 years old now. That, is maybe 6 years old. And you'll know that I exaggerate a time or two. That's okay. That's just telling you. But I've got lardo in there. Lardo basically is pure fat that you encase in herbs and salt and blah, 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 and put it in the, vacuum seal it up, put it in the bottom of your thing, let it sit there for years. But I can pull it out right now and rub off or wipe or even wash off that salt. And there's very little salty flavor inside that fat as a result. However, that fat has mellowed and cured, all right, and aged in a way that it has become, it's 100% safe to eat. And that's what the salt does. The salt prevents any type of bacteria. But salt's not penetrating deep into that fat, if at all into that fat. Maybe just on the top surface where there is still some moisture coming out of that. Where the skin's at, none of that's happening. All right, so when they throw their salt mixture on top of that jamon, they're not putting it all over the back. Yeah, they put some on there, but they're not using that total weight. My point is, I'm going to cover the whole thing with the cure. However, most of the cure I'm going to want to have on the meat side, and it doesn't matter if it's on the meat side or the fat side. It'll only penetrate into the meat side because it's really not going to go through the fat. It does. I hear you out there. It does, but not the same way it does on the meat side. So again, my method, all right, the way that I've been doing it. And now we've done this this particular way about 4 times, 5 times recently. When I say recently, in the last 3 years, and it seems to work really well. You don't get an overabundance of salty flavor, and I'm keeping my salt total percentage fairly low. I like to go just about 80% of what I do, 2% salt. 0.25% cure number 2. And if it's a prosciutto back leg, I generally like to have sugar in it. And I'll use generally brown sugar, It makes me feel so. Every time I say it, I get into that little dance, brown sugar. And I like brown sugar. And then the spices that I put on it, for these, generally I don't measure. I put them on to coat. I know this right here, all right, it's made up of 7 different items, and they're all calculated, weighed out, and one of the most important things you're going to learn to do is when you do all this, you take your peppercorns out, you grind them up, and all your other little ingredients, you grind up, go put them on a pan, and I think I even have either a picture or video of that. Put them on a pan and roast them down a little bit. It does a couple of things, and you guys know this. It brings out some of the aromatic oils, but the most important thing it does is it kills any spores, any type of bacteria that would be on those ingredients that will affect your product. I have got a boatload of money into Amos before I took him down. You know, you can't make money selling pork from home. It really is an interesting thing. If I were to sell, and I you know, that's not unreasonable. If I were to sell my pork, I would have to charge between $20 and $40 a pound in order to make a fair profit for what we do. Now, when people want to buy this type of stuff, and they say, how much are you going to sell? What do you sell one of your legs for? It's $1,000. And they say, well, that's crazy. No, it's not crazy. It's the time and the money and the, you know, supply and demand. If I don't have a lot of the exact same product, there's a price limit. There's one in there I won't sell for $2,000. It's just, I've not been able to duplicate it. I'm working on it. I'm working on it right here. Is that unreasonable? No, that's what craftsmanship, artisan, sometimes they want to keep their stuff and they don't want to sell it, so they put a price on it where it's high enough where generally nobody's going to want to buy it until they blow your or challenge your bluff, and then they write you a check for $2,000 and then you walk away and say, I'm sorry, I lied. Apparently it's more than that. But anyway, I don't know where I was going with all that. And I'll do that every now and then. It just lose that train of thought. So I measure out my ingredients for this particular one because I know how much fat is in it at roughly 50% of its weight. Again, some of you are going to say, now I will use the full amount for cure number 2. All right, whatever that number is, I will generally double that. I'm a big fan of cure number 2. It is, you know, quite frankly, you're getting more nitrites and nitrates in the vegetables that you are eating, if you're eating your vegetables, than you generally would in a product that has aged and dried properly using, synthetic curing agent. Now, synthetic curing agents doesn't mean it's not it is the exact same chemical formula as the nitrites that are found in celery salt, all right, or celery juice or whatever. Celery is one of the highest nitrite producing or containing vegetables that we have. And if you break down the chemical composition of that nitrite compared to the synthetic nitrites that we're talking about, which is, what do they call it? This says pink salt, I don't like that, but Preg number 2 or Instacure number 2, exactly the same chemical formula. So there, take that. Now, do you need cure on this? Do you need a synthetic sodium nitrite and nitrate mixture here? You don't, because it's a whole muscle. At the same time, I like the insurance that I get from using it, and I use it pretty much on everything I do, including salamis. I use it even in some sausages if I know I'm not going to be cooking them that day, or if I'm going to be smoking them. I'll definitely use a cure in it, and I'm not a believer that it is a problem. The media likes to make a lot of problems out of nothing, and you know it the same as I know it. But I'm not a believer in that one, so we'll just go from there. I'm sure it's coffee. All right, so I got my weight of this bad boy. Right, might as well open it up and get it out here. So don't look at my bottom. So it's going to get vac sealed. This is this is what they call an expandable vacuum bag, and I'll open it up and show you when I'm done. But it's like pleated, and I'm going to go ahead and seal this bag and take you down the process of doing this, and let you get back to your day. I don't actually know when that's going to be, but so I write everything down. I measured it out. I got, I'm going to need 70 grams of salt. I'm going to need 8.75 grams of the cure number 2 and 35 grams of brown sugar. It make me feel so good. And I got salt right here, all right, measured. And I got the cure number 2 right here, measured. Now generally, I'll take those two, right, boom, boom, put them together. All right, if you don't have these scales, now you got to have good scales. I guess here's a micro scale for measuring the little stuff. You got to have it. This goes up to 5 kg. You got to have it. You can't be using those little dial scales, much like the one I just used. All right, we got the cure, and here's the brown sugar. All right, that's going to go in there too. I'm going to mix all that up together. And this and this, they're going to get hand applied. And I'm even going to go in with a little bit of the phenylpollen. You saw the bag, the more expensive than gold stuff. So I'm going to give that bag a double seal. Right now it's sealing on the end. So we're going to mix this right here. Basically is my cure blend. Recently I was down south and I bought a ham at a gas station, and it's a true story. But it's sugar cured ham. Now I know it's cured with more than sugar, but sugar also has properties of curing. And basically what curing means is it's penetrating the meat to remove water moisture. Water content is what we're trying to get out of it, but not in a way like dehydrating, where we're just evaporating it out. We're penetrating salt into the muscle that will actually pull moisture from its intermuscular something or other cells, maybe, I don't know. But in either case, I thought it was really cool. They're not cheap, by the way. They're not expensive, but that ham that some of you saw me post whilst I was being a ham was $90, I think. And I'm excited to try it, but it's a country ham, so I've never in my life had one. Isn't that weird? I've never had a country ham. But in either case, we're gonna we're gonna, apparently you have to soak it in water for like 24 hours. First thing I'm gonna do is cut a little piece off of it, run it into my slicer, make a real thin slice, and see what it is. All right, so my cure, which is salt, curing salt, and brown sugar. Ooh, it just gets me all excited. Now, I'm gonna measure out my bag here. So that is ready. I'm gonna get it cut open. I'm gonna show you what I do. So it did there, right? Bing. So I'm gonna bring this out to here. I'm gonna get my scissors. Come over here and cut this off. Weep, weep. I'll tell you what. There are times in the day where I feel remedial. And one of them is when I'm using scissors. I hadn't figured it out yet. When I was a child, I used to be a lot better off at using scissors, but I don't, for some reason now, like I said, I got some issues. All right, now, if you've not done this before, pay attention. Regular vac bags, the expandable vac bags, I go inside here and I flip it inside out right here. Not all the way, go down about 8-10 inches. Some of you mismeasure 8 to 10 inches, by the way. You was led to believe something different as a child, is what I'm guessing. But anyway, there. We'll put this over here on this sanitary surface to wait for me. All right, got our cure out. Got our peppery blend. Oh my God. Which has been toasted to remove any sporage. Tend to make up a lot of my own words too, and I highly recommend it. Oh my Lord. Fennel pollen. Like fennel, but it's the pollen. I'm making shit up all the time. Oh, that's delicious. And there's the pepper. So I'm gonna keep these covered just for now, because I don't want nothing splashing into it. All right, so we're gonna cut open our dingling bag here. Get a few paper towels ready to wipe this big bad boy off. All right, I'm gonna put it right down onto this sanitized tray, aluminum, for my British friends. Some of you know that I was born in Germany to a British mum. First thing we like to do always is smell your meat. Oh, that's nice. Oh. Now, if she ever pulls back and says that's not nice, then you think twice about curing that one. Sometimes pork will have some interesting flavors, or not flavors, but smells. Sometimes beef will too. Sometimes we all smell a little bit, I'm not too crazy about showering like I used to be when I was younger, but that's more because of our facilities here and our general lack of excellent clean water. Generally, when we wash, we're not really cleaning everything. It's just levels of dirtiness on a farm. But anyway, inspect it. You don't want to have a lot of loose, and I trimmed this guy up already, but you don't want to have a lot of loose pieces laying around on it. The bag is ready, and the reason the bag is ready is because once I put that salt on there, it's going to start kicking moisture out like woo. All right, I did, because this is part of the hind leg and there's an artery veinage thing in there with bloodage, you want to always be squeezing, trying to get that out, and we've already done that. When we did it the first time, you don't want to have any, really big loose things on there. But here we go, we're going to do it. I do want to, all right, so I'm going to use this. This is my Comfort Farms linen dish towel, and I like representing the various groups that I associate with and supporting them. I'm not going to be able to be there next week, and it makes me sick, quite frankly. I love them boys and all the folks that go to that event, and it's a huge national event. But this year, for a number of different reasons, we were not able to attend. But in either case, I'm going to start on this one, on this side, and I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit of this here curing salt on it. Not a lot, little, not a lot. It is going to penetrate, especially since I don't have skin. It's a whole nother subject, why I don't have skin on it. And we'll talk about that one day, but life doesn't always go as planned, so you got to improvise and do what you can do. All right, now we're going to come over here. Whoa, I made a mistake. So while we have it on this side, again, we are going to put, because fat will absorb some certain notes, aromatics, so to speak, very well. So this is getting a nice dosing of fennel pollen, some peppery blend, and even, mainly for color, but even some Calabrian pepper. Woo. Now, why am I not measuring it? Lots of reasons. We're just gonna leave it at that. How about that? But really, quite honestly, for me, very rarely do I have more than my peppery blend and the curing salts on it. So I've just not gotten to the habit of measuring those particular. I put on enough for it to stick, and enough of it. All right, now you're going to try to get as much in there as you can, but you know what's going to happen. We all know what's going to happen. I'll go ahead and put it all in there, and I'll show you why. And I tell you what, being a bit remedial in my mental capacity, over the years, I've gotten into the habit of quoting a lot of movie lines. And those of you that know me know that most of the time I'm generally speaking in some form of a movie line. One thing I find interesting is each pig you take down has a distinctive odor and a smell based on its feed, its care, its stress level at the time it came down. Whole nother subject matter, but we'll talk about it. And when you put the curing salt mixture, the blend, salt, sugar, curing salt on it, it really brings out that distinctive flavor of that particular pig. And I've always found that fascinating to me. All right, wipe my hand just a little bit so I don't get any raw pig inside there. Now I'm gonna go like that with that. The quantities of these are not necessarily important to the curing process of the pig. How long am I going to have this piece here in cure? Well, that's an excellent question, and I'm glad you asked. Again, a movie line. This is a big one, all right? It's a fat muscle. However, the muscle, the meat portion of it itself, is only about 2 to 3 inches. So realistically, this could probably cure in 30 days. Maybe even less than that. But Tony's a bit of I like taking my time and making it last, I'll show you some of the stuff I have in cure. It's not unusual for me to have a piece like this in cure for a year or a year and a half. Why? Life gets at you fast. You got other projects you're working on. Maybe you can't get to it right away. That's okay. That's what I love about this sport is if you're doing EQ curing, you can't oversalt it. You can't leave it in cure too long. It won't hurt it at all. And like I said, I've got stuff we'll show you that's been in cure for a year and a half. Well, more than that now, almost 2 years, and it's fine. All right. dust off right there. Boom. Ding, ding. So we measured out all those ingredients, and we were very careful that we measured out exactly what we needed, right? So now what we got to do is make sure that every bit of what we measured out gets into that bag with that piece of meat. What's in the bag, baby? Sorry. Welcome to my little world. I swear. Look, I'll be honest with you, and I know this for a fact. None of you are better off by watching any of this. You don't gain any significant knowledge. You're not even partly amused by it. But for some reason, I will just continue to make the videos, and you'll continue to watch them because, you know, I don't know. I ain't figured it out yet. But for whatever reason, I enjoy doing it, and thank you for letting me have part of your day. Ooh, that's good coffee. All right, now this is where a body apron or something else would be more handy. I'm going to take this whole big bad boy right here. All right, now without getting my hand on that seal, I'm just going to set it right inside there. All right, now come over here, and we got to get all this stuff. When this goes into the bag, there are some that say, hey, you got a big pile of it in one spot and you don't have a lot in the other spot over there, and well, you done messed it all up. And there might be truth to that. There's no truth to that. But in either case, all you gotta do is get it in the bag. I'm trying to think of the name. If I forget the name or don't know the name, I'll make one up. But it's not osmosis, it's not anyway, all the juices in the meat will come out and they will mix, and the salinity and the actual amount of the cure, it all gets into the muscle. And that's one of the reasons that I like leaving my stuff in cure for so long. Right on the floor. It's because, think about this for a minute. You got a piece of meat, you got salt on the outside, you know through, I don't know, osmosis or whatever, the salt's gonna penetrate into the meat. So if I pull it out in one day, the outside of that meat's gonna be saltier than all the way inside. In fact, salt hadn't even penetrated down into the center of the meat yet, okay? Leave it in there for 7 days, you go down at like an inch in there, and you're gonna have some salt in there, but maybe it's not all the way down inside there. At some point, a year, or if it's a small piece like this, 7 days, the salt has gone all the way to the inside and then worked its way back out, and there's an equilibrium that has occurred where the salinity on the outside of that meat is exactly the same as the salinity on the inside of that meat. But that takes time. So hear me out on this. You put 3 different pieces of meat, and they're all different sizes, in the same vacuum sealed bag, and then you mix all cure, blah, 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 put it all together. The smallest meat's going to have the most salinity after a certain period of time than the bigger pieces of meat, because the salinity salt hadn't been able to penetrate into the center of those at some point. If you leave it in there long enough, all 3 will have the same salinity. How long is that? That's it varies based on a number of different things, but generally I leave everything for at least 30 days in cure. Big pieces like this will be months in cure. And that's, again, it's just me, it's how I do it. Not saying it's right. All right. The expandable bags have made it convenient for fellers like me that don't have the big fancy vacuum sealers, because now I can, and you don't want to slide this around. What you do is you want to pick it up and move it, and there's reasons for that. And the biggest reason is you'll get little micro cuts in the bag and it won't seal properly. All right, so I try to take out as much air as I can inside it, and that looks beautiful. I just never get tired of playing with my meat. I don't know why. It's just the truth of it. All right, so I get that lined up like that. I operate my vacuum sealer different than others, and well, that's just the way it is. All right, so I'm gonna bring this up Get my vacuum sealer close to it. I don't want the machine to drag the meat into it like that. I'm gonna make some noise for a little bit until, you know, a big piece of meat like this take a few minutes to vacuum seal. But in the meantime, I'll take you through a tour and show you what I got going on over there. Come on with me. There's the door's open. It might be critters in there now. But there's some of my hormones that I have in storage, and this here is what I cured. There's my door of cheese. If you don't have a door of cheese, well, you're just missing out. But I got cheese. I got aged cheese. I have cheese in here from literally years ago that if you store it properly, it'll stay forever. But here, let me see if I can set this down here. See if you can still see me. This here is a very similar. It is the leg of Amos, the hind leg, and this is the culatello portion. That's how big of a culatello Big Amos. Now, I might have some of the other muscle group on it, but you know, it's because I'm not a professional butcher like the ones in Britain and San Paulo and other places around the world. But anyway, a lot of people in this world, in our little rabbit hole of charcuterie, believe that you should go out and massage your meat every day. Now, while I'm a big fan of massaging your meat, I'm not a big fan of massaging your cured items. What I do like to do is turn them every day. What I don't think you should do is, if you notice when you cure something in salt, after a couple days it starts to firm up, and that's how you know that the cure is actually getting into the muscle. And by going there and then squeezing and massaging it, in my opinion, you're breaking some of those fibers that are holding the meat muscle groups together. Again, that's just my opinion. I prefer not to massage this meat that I keep in cure. All right, that's a big boy, but I do turn it over each day. All right, and so this is a small one. This one here is what I like to call the Fiocco. It's that one small, I don't know. Fiocco's probably a name for a salami. Again, it's your deal. You can make it up any way you want to. So, but that guy right there, now you notice like over here, oh, you didn't get much rub over here. It'll get there, it'll get there. It's only been in there for a few days. There's still big areas where it's clumpy. This one here, you know, you try not, instead of massaging it, what I do like to do is grab the vacuum seal bag, if you can see, and I pull the bag, and that moves, that literally moves that cure around in there. How much can you do it? A little bit here and there, but it moves it. All right, here, that's Amos's copa muscle. He's a big boy, 676 pounds, but you can see there's the money muscle right up on top, and it goes all the way back, and I did get a little bit of the loin in there, and I got a big piece of the fat cat on there. That's gonna be beautiful. Look at that, it's like a baby, it's like a baby. I think that's a 18 or 20 pounder too. Oh my goodness. All right, now something else I want to show you, to get this situated right again, is so these have been down here for quite a while. This is a Fagerman lamb shank right here, a hind leg, I think, from Fagerman Farms. The most amazing lamb in the history of American lamb. And I don't even know if it comes from America, but that family just did wonderful things for me. Send me a whole bunch of their product that we've got in cure that we're going to be taking out here soon and starting the drying and the aging process. But just so many different things. This is a Comfort Farms piece of meat that was brought out to Chapel Hill at the Chapel Hill Boucherie by the famous and lovely Weaver Hickerson. But we named this the Copa Weave. And again, that's ready. That's been in there for quite a while. That's ready to come out and do some drying. And when I dry these, I case them first into either pig bladders, or we got some synthetic casings. There's a lot of different things that you can do. Something like this you can do into umai. The umai, you can literally do it inside your home refrigerator. But I've got stuff down here. I want to show you this big guy down here. Please forgive my back. All right, so this was also this was a hind leg that was separated into 3 different muscles, but stuffed into the same bag. You can do it. You can do it. This is 10 duck breasts. 10 duck breasts that are ready to come out, and these are going to be amazing, amazing. All right, and this is one of my private joys. Blair Machado cut this out of a Royal Yabali, the one I brought back from Milledgeville, Georgia, a year and a half, almost 2 years ago. Almost 2 years ago. All right, look at that beautiful thing. That's got the fat cap. This is a loin with the fat cap on it. And that was a young pig, probably less than a year old. I'm gonna say it wasn't even that, maybe 9 months. And what a beautiful fat cap on that Royal Yabali right there. But yeah, so this is another way to keep track of things. This here is number 98, so I go to my book, go to my book and we'll look at it. Number 98, it's got a second layer that was put on March of 21, right there, boom. So, y'all see the missus in the background, she come hobbling in here, say hi. And let that all sit there. She likes to be in every video I make. And then over here, we have all of my finished products. There's an 8-year-old pancetta right there. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. And it's time to add more refrigeration to this area. I don't have enough. I need more. I have one refrigerator. They're all controlled with ink birds like that. But I have one that literally is just devoted to casings. Natural and or synthetic. But let's go back. That said 98, number 98. Let's go to 98 and see what that was. Ooh, right there. Royal Asshole Culatello. I don't think that was, okay, so that was 96, Terra Prosciutto, nope. So second layer, 321. Well, I don't know, 99. Maybe I mislabeled it. I don't know. But anyway, here's this one. Look how radiant the Mrs. B looks behind my meat. So I'm gonna give this a second seal, then this one's gonna go. I generally run my curing chambers around 38 degrees or less. Try to keep the humidity, I don't care because it's all in cure. Everything's vacuum sealed that's inside there. The drying and aging chambers, I still keep around 38 degrees. But for those, they will obtain the humidity that I have in this room, which generally is around 65 to 70%. I'm never having to add humidity. What I do is add more product. The more product you add, the more water that is being released into it. I generally have to remove humidity. At that temperature, you're not gonna be able to pull out a lot of humidity with a dehumidifier, but you can if you keep the door cracked a little bit and you got a little fan strategically placed inside there. What I recommend, and this is what I do, is literally go out every day, look at your meat, play with it, inspect it, make sure things are going the way you want them to. I'm gonna see if I put that back up. And that does a lot of things. Now, we're not talking about mold or anything in this one, but I will do a whole video series on mold and why I like going out and playing with my meat. And you know, the biggest reason for me is to inspect the molds. For something to live, something else has to die. And as you'll see, certain molds die off, other molds are gonna come and take its place. They consume, they use it as food. And the colors that they produce and the aromas, you know, you rub it, you smell it. Oh my Lord, Lord. Anyway, this is gonna go in cure, and then I will follow up with, there's so many more different processes to go through, but that's what I do to put a big piece of meat like this in cure. And you know, in 5 to 7 years, I'll be able to share a little bit of it with you. How about that? Hola.